Hey guys, welcome to the channel. As you see in the thumbnail, what if Naruto find he is royal blood and harem part 1. Before I start, please do support for more awesome content, and subscribe my channel and like this video. Go support and follow the MadHat886 for writing that awesome fanfic, and also make sure to comment on this story. Link in the description. The heir, a tall middle-aged woman with long green hair, is standing on an outside stage in front of a crowd of women in an open-air arena. The white button shirt she wore strained to keep her massive burst from popping free. The block miniskirt she wore barely kept her underwear from being seen. There are a dozen women on the stage with her, are all wearing the same uniform as she's wearing and who are also straining the tops of their shirts, as the shirts are all tight around the chest area. And before them are hundreds of young women who are all dressed with all short mini dresses like the skirts the women in white are wearing. We, the Delmo Kunoichis of the Delmo clan, stand before here today for this important announcement, the green-haired woman shouted for all to hear. Finally, after 18 long years of searching, we have finally located the lost heir of the Delmo clan. 1. A mighty cheer rang out from the crowd of women before her, as they have been searching for the wandering daughter of the Delmo clan, ever since she ran off all those years ago. For hundreds of years, the Delmo clan in the land of metal, a country rich in metals beyond the land of earth, has ruled over the country. The land is ruled by one powerful family whose power is fueled by the money, the great mines throughout the country that they solely owned. It had began as a hidden village like the ones in the eastern countries, but that had changed when the daughter of the leader of the Delmo clan, who was also the leader of the ninja village, and the Sun royal family had fallen in love with each other. Since then, the castle of the royal family and the village hidden in metal had combined to form the only ninja village that's in plain sight, as the city around the castle has become their home. The inner walls of the castle are staffed and protected by the descendants of the ninja village, which are all shapely women. The reason of this is because the ninjas of the village hidden in metal had always been kunoichis, as a powerful blood limit has been passed down to all of the ninja clans. The blood limit lets them harness chakra from their surroundings, giving them unlimited source of energy. But the blood limit also had a price, as all those who carried the blood limit can only have female children, who are known for their beauty and ample figures thanks to the blood limit, which matures their bodies in a big way. Because of that, the Delmo Kunoichis, as they came to be known, have to marry outside the clan to have children, but because they didn't want to have their blood limit fall into another village, all newborn females have a seal placed on them at birth that makes it impossible for them to ever become pregnant without having the seal unsealed by one of the elders of the clan. That only happens when they found a husband. And to make sure that the girls didn't just go and marry to any guy, the man would have to beat the kunoichi in a fight in front of her family members to make sure that there's no cheating involved by the man. But it isn't uncommon for the kunoichi to lose the match if she really likes the man who's fighting her, as long as the mother of the kunoichi or grandmother can see the man is truly in love with their daughter/granddaughter. And the fact of having grandchildren running underfoot helps in deciding if they should tell the wife-to-be to lose the fight. The young women of the Delmo clan have been forced to look further and further from the central city to find a husband, as after years of the city's young men marrying young kunoichis, there are very few women who don't have the blood limit flowing in them, causing very few male births in the city. The clan is ranked differently to other ninjas as they work under the royal family, who by this time are all women but for the husbands who married into the family, as the country has been ever since the union of the leader's daughter and the prince, has been a queendom. The kunoichis all wear color-coded uniforms to tell what area or rank they are at. The age of the kunoichis are also higher, as the youngest that a kunoichi can be when they can go on to B to S-ranked missions is 16. The elders reasoning that older, stronger girls were more suitable to handle the missions, which are more than just picking weeds from a garden or looking after a store when the owner is sick, or any mission that are outside the city's walls. And that there are so many women in the city who are from the Delmo clan, the elders had to raise the age level so there wouldn't be too many ninjas running around. The Black Delmos, the lowest ranking of the kunoichis, in charge of carrying out simple missions, mass attacking using hand-to-hand combat, and the administration of the castle and surrounding city, the lowest jobs. The Purple Delmos, they are trained in using chakra to increase their speed, making them invisible to the eye. They serve as massagers between the towns of the country. The Yellow Delmos, they serve as the city guards protecting the people. They are trained with body weights, making them very powerful in combat. The Pink Delmos, they are responsible for maintaining the equipments for missions. And they're the healers. The Green Delmos, They specialize in using long-range throwing weapons and sneaking onto targets. The Blue Delmos, the middle-ranking kunoichis. They carry weapons and perform security duties such as defending the city and castle against intruders. The Orange Delmos, trained to be weapon experts who can hold all of their weapons on them using the hidden weapons jutsu, which uses a lot of churka to be used. The Red Delmos, they're the castle guard who are trained like the Yellows in making their bodies strong. But they wear body armor, making them the only ninjas who wear armor. The Silver Delmos, the hunter ninjas to recapture any runaway ninjas and information gatherers. The Gold Delmos, the elites who specialize in S-ranked missions and black ops. The White Delmos, the commanders and royal family personal bodyguards. They are responsible for the smooth operations of the kunoichi's forces and missions. Here is the queen tell us personally of what she has learned about her lost daughter, the green-haired woman shouted as she steps back to like an old silver-hair woman wearing a kimono to step up to speak. As you know, my adventure's daughter Kiko ran away 18 years ago to live out her dream of becoming a wandering ninja known for her skill and power. I learned yesterday that she made it as far as the Land of Fire in the Far East. There she met a powerful ninja who was the Hokage of the village hidden in the leaf. She got into a fight with him, losing and ending up marrying him. There she stayed until her death when the nine-tailed fox attacked the village 12 years ago. My daughter has been dead for years now, the queen told her loyal ninjas to their horror, as this would mean the end of the Delmo royal family, which would mean a civil war over the throne. But before she died, she gave birth to my grandchild, the first male to ever be born in our ninja clan. This caused a wave of shock to all those present, as never in their history has a male been born by a woman carrying the blood limit in her body. My son-in-law gave his life in sealing the nine-tailed fox into my grandson to save his village, wanting them to look at his son as a hero. But instead they only saw him as the demon fox, making his life a living hell, the old queen said, which all the ninjas could feel a burning fury in her voice. I want every free gold Delmo here to head for the Hidden Leaf Village. You all will receive a picture of what he looks like at the mission briefing. Find him and bring my grandson unharmed back here. My queen, may I ask, what is his name? A redhead with short hair and a gold Delmo uniform asked. The queen let out a deep sigh as she's still recovering from learning her daughter's death and the mistreatment of her only grandson. His name is Naruto, and he is the royal heir of the Delmo family. It was in the mid-afternoon. The sun was high over the sky, shining down upon the village of the Hidden Leaf. The sounds of joyful laughter could be heard floating through the air. At the Ninja Academy, the next year's class of graduates were situated in the outside yard, the children's parents celebrating the newly appointed ninja's accomplishments. It was a joyous occasion all around, mostly anyways. Sitting on a small wooden swing off to the side of the courtyard sat a short blond boy, his body drifting back and forth as he looked longingly at the display going on before him. A mother ing her daughter on the cheek, a father ruffling his son's hair as he smiled brightly at the boy, another father tossing his son proudly into the air and catching him. They all looked so happy and proud of their children. The young boy in the swing, Naruto, could barely keep his eyes open. Watching all of them together, so happy of being with their family, it made that longing feeling feel so much deeper. When he opened his eyes again, Naruto took notice of a strange-looking woman wandering around the courtyard. She was wearing a plain gold-color kimono, and her hair was tied back in a braided ponytail which flowed down her backside, her hair in the front draped down in front of her eyes. She had high cheekbones, big, brown eyes, and a rather aquiline nose. She looked to be around in her 30s. Though that wasn't strange in itself, it was the pale green hair and dark skin that made her noticeable in a crowd, and also the fact that her figure was fabulous: slim waist, rounded hips, full bosom, her very large, round, somewhat pendulous shape. Even with the kimono, it was easy to see how shapely she is, causing many of the wives to smack their husbands from staring at her. She appeared to be looking through the crowd of children and parents, most likely looking for her own somewhere. With a sigh, Naruto turned his gaze to his feet, barely able to touch the ground from his spot on the swing due to his short stature. "Excuse me?" Blinking as no one usually talks to him, Naruto looked up to see who was addressing him. To his surprise, it was the green-haired woman. She was bent down at the waist, with her hands on her knees looking at him at eye level, her head crooking to the side as she appeared to be examining him as if making sure he was the real one. "Why, yeah?" Naruto asked wearily. Any and all experience with adults had taught him to be careful. They were always yelling at him, or throwing stuff at him, or chasing him away with brooms. The woman just continued to stare at him, her green eyes squinting shut in a caddish look. After another moment, the woman smiled, gave a sharp nod, and stood up straight again. "Can I ask you a question?" the woman asked, walking around so that she was beside the blonde boy, looking out at the group of people in front of the school. "Yeah, what?" Naruto looked puzzled, as he stared up at the strange woman. Her gaze was directed at the crowd. Did she want him to find her child in the crowd or something? "Why aren't you celebrating with the other children over there?" she asked. Naruto could feel his throat tightening as he turned to look at his feet again. I didn't pass," he mumbled. The redhead looked surprised as she looked at him. "You didn't pass?" She indeed did look quite surprised. Why? Naruto really didn't want to get into this, especially with a complete stranger. But despite that, the fact that someone was actually paying attention to him completely overrode his embarrassment. "I couldn't perform the final exam jutsu," the boy admitted. I failed." Blinking, the woman stared at him, wanting him to go on. "I couldn't do a simple bushin," Naruto explained. "Oh, I see," she replied. A moment of silence. What was she going to do? Laugh at him like all the other villagers? There was a short rustling behind him, and then a surprised Naruto found himself sailing forward in the swing. When he came back, he looked up to see the woman holding onto the ropes. "This is a very nice swing," she commented. "I bet it's a lot of fun." "Well, yeah," Naruto replied, a smile creeping onto his face. "It's my favorite. I bet it's a lot of fun having someone to push you," she added, giving the swing another push, sending Naruto forward again. "Yeah." The boy's smile was growing wider now. Back and forth he went as she continued to push him, Naruto's earlier mood seemingly forgotten. "So what are you going to do now?" she asked suddenly. Bring the young boy out of his brief happy trance. "What do you mean?" Naruto asked, turning his head to look up at the redhead. "Now that you failed, are you going to try again?" she asked, her tone sounding merely thoughtful. Well, of course," Naruto replied, a familiar fire returning to the blonde. "I'm Naruto Uzumaki. Do you think I'm going to let this stop me?" The woman smiled. "I'm glad to hear it," she replied, happy to see the same spirit in his heart as the woman she had grew up with. "Why you are?" This was a surprise. In all of his life, Naruto had never met anybody who had ever said anything encouraging like that to him. Well, except maybe for his academy teacher Iruka, but Iruka was also always yelling at him too. Of course. Who wouldn't want such a nice boy to succeed? The woman smiled brightly. As she leaned forward, a number of her greed locks fell in front of her and into Naruto's face. Brushing the green strands of hair out his face, Naruto stared up in awe at the strange woman. "Who are you anyways?" he finally asked. The woman looked somewhat taken aback and released her hold on the swing. "My name is Setsuna Umido," she replied, giving him a warm smile. "Your name is Setsuna?" Naruto asked, jumping out of the swing to look at her. "Well, thanks, Setsuna. I'm definitely going to pass. One way or another. Just wait and see." "That's very good." Setsuna smiles at the young boy. "Well, I have to go. Make sure to look for me, Setsuna. Next time you see me, I'm gonna to be a full-fledged ninja of the leaf," Naruto proclaimed, before dashing off, waving the whole time until he was out of sight. Setsuna wore a bitter smile as she watched him go. It was, as she realized, much harder to tell him who he is than she had realized. But why? Wouldn't it have been good if she had told him who his mother was and father? That he's the only heir of a powerful ninja clan and the prince of the land of metal in the far west, that he didn't have to put himself through all of this hard work to become a leaf ninja. Wouldn't he have been happy? Wouldn't he? But when she had stared into his eyes, she could see the sparks shining in them which were in his mother's eyes when she was around his age. She and Kiko were growing up together. Both she and Kiko had gone through the ninja school together. Her duty was to become the personal bodyguard of Kiko, as she was brought up to be exactly like the princess, and trained in using the body image jutsu that takes the body image of the person the user targets. She was to be Kiko's body double when she became queen. But the princess had other ideas. She had the dream of being a wandering ninja going from one place to another without a care for the world. The life as a princess wasn't to her liking, as she wanted adventure before she became queen. That was what she had written in her letter to her mother before she ran away. Setsuna hopes that her friend found what she was looking for in the arms of the fourth Hokage of the Leaf. Unlike the rest of the clan, those born in the royal family don't have the anti-child seal placed on them. While Setsuna was deep within her own thoughts, she hadn't noticed two women from the main crowd of people walk over to her. Blinking in surprise, the green-haired woman turned to look at the two. "You must be new here," the first woman stated. Yes, I am," Setsuna replied carefully. She hadn't realized she stood out that much. But her clothes are the norm in the land of metal, but here she guessed was very unusually. "It's understandable. We saw you talking to it, and thought you should be careful," the second woman explained. "Excuse me?" Setsuna looked puzzled. "We're really not supposed to talk about it," the first continued, looking around carefully to make sure no one was listening. "But be careful. That thing is a monster. If you're not careful, you might get killed." The sheer intensity of the glare that the two women received was so powerful that they both jumped back in surprise. And to their horror, their clothes fell apart as if they were cut with a blade, leaving them but in the middle of the street. Everyone stared at her as none of them saw her move from the spot she was standing at. Setsuna left without another word. In one of the inns of the village, Setsuna returned to the room she and her party had rented under the ruse of being travelers. It was already nightfall when she made it back to the inn. She had chosen 5 gold delmos for this mission as she didn't want to draw unwanted attention to themselves. The rest of the gold delmos are waiting orders from them outside of the village, keeping out of sight. Which was easy, as they are all A to S rank kunoichis, and because of their bloodline they can maintain jutsus which hides them in plain sight. Russian Nintendo, age 16 years old, the youngest of the group. Tall, with a slim, athletic figure. Her S are large, at least for her age, but not as large as those of any of the other girls of the gold delmos. Her face was pretty, with a sweet, innocent look to it, with blue eyes and a heart-shaped mouth. Her hair was long, blonde, and wavy. She uses a jutsu that allows her to control fire, making it hotter and take shapes. She is armed with gloves with flint-covered fingertips. Once she snaps her fingers, she can make the small spark into a roaring inferno. She is also skilled in using pressure points, locking her opponent bodies with the slightest touch. Mikan Kurinai, tall, thin, her skin very dark, but clear, her floor-length hair wavy, dark with a slight reddish cast. Her large, well-formed, and plump projecting buttocks seem to have been bolted on to her thin frame. She possesses a skill passed down through her family which took 300 years to perfect, the Eisen-style armor cloth skill. It allows the user to transform any cloth into a living weapon or armor. She personally uses adamantium cloth. She also has explosive gauntlets, which the blasts are focused in the front of the gauntlets when she forms her hands into a fist, leaving her hands unharmed. Then there's her sister Tuka Kurinai, her wavy, auburn hair reaching to the middle of her back. Like Carrie, her eyes were green, flashing with passion. Her fine skin was dusted with freckles across her nose and cheekbones and the top of her bosom. Her figure seemed more voluptuous than her sister, with extremely large S and a slim waist curving out to full, firm buttocks. Her weapon is sound waves produced from her gauntlets, and from an odd accordion/piano object which operates by blowing air through the nose into it. Her vibrations can affect equilibrium as well as breaking down the cells of objects. Maya Yujina, a redhead who keeps her hair short, she is sleek, muscled, powerful, and stood over 8 feet. Her legs were of special interest. They were the firm and taut legs of a fitness model or female track star. And like she likes to rub it in, she has the biggest burst line as she wears a custom-made bra to hold her H-cup-sized chest. She uses a fighting move that's been pasted down in her family for generations, ever since one of her great-grandmothers had married the monk who learned to use it. Normally when a person punches an object, resistance is made caused by the object. To make sure that this leftover power isn't wasted, the person will hit with the knuckles, then a second hit with the rest of the fist is made within 1/64th of a second, causing the object to shatter. And then there is the last member of the party, Suraya Anada. She was a beautiful doll, less than 5 feet tall, with large S, a slim waist, gorgeous hips, all in proportion to her tiny size. Her almond-shaped eyes were big, and so dark as to be almost black. Her doll-like face was framed by straight hair, black, but with a reddish cast, parted in the middle, reaching to the middle of her round buttocks. She uses her small and light frame to her advantage, using a long cape that can take the form of large wings. She uses a wind jutsu to lift her into the air. With this she can glide through the air effortlessly and attack from high above. 1. Have you found the prince? Maya asks as she flips through the channels on the TV in their room. Yes, I have, Setsuna replied as she sat down on one of the chairs in the room. When will we make our move? Rashuna asks as she wants to get out of here before they're discovered. It's not that simple, Sasuna said. He has his heart set on becoming a leaf ninja. He won't willing go with us. You heard the queen, she wants him to be brought back with us, Mikun said. She wants him taken away from here, willingly or otherwise. I agree with my sister for once, Tuka said, backing up her sister, which she rarely ever does. She ordered us to do this by any means. As long as he is unharmed, that is, Soraya reminded them. Rashuna can use a sleeping pressure point on him, and we can carry him out of here before the ninjas here can stop us. And what makes you think that he won't run away like his mother when he sees a chance to? Setsuna said to the younger kunoichis in the room. I see the same look in his eyes as his mother. If we force him, he will not accept being held against his will. He has to freely come with us, or the same thing that happened 18 years ago with his mother will happen again. And we won't have another chance of doing this again. I have already confirmed that the adults of the villages only see the prince as a demon. We have to convince him to accept the fact that he will never be accepted by this village. But for that to happen, we will have to do things slowly to gain his trust. I have already taken the first step when I met him in front of the school, after he failed the final. Then all we have to do is make sure that we be there for him when he falls to catch him, Mikun said to all present, who all nodded in response. This is the most important mission they have ever been given, one that they cannot fail. I'm going to keep an eye on him. Soraya, come with me in case I need the rest of you, Setsuna said as she got up and headed for the door. All right, Soraya said as she followed the leader of the group out the door. Later that night, Setsuna was having flashbacks as she raced through the woods. She still couldn't believe that Naruto is acting just like his mother, as she had stolen a forbidden scroll containing powerful jutsus when she was told she couldn't learn them. Setsuna had to find him before one of those enraged leaf ninjas found and killed him. That's why she was out here in this forest, searching desperately with no clue as to the young prince's whereabouts. When the Hokage had first gathered the search team, she and Soraya had remained in the shadows to watch, using a powerful jutsu to hide them from the ninjas in the room. When they had saw the jutsu Naruto used to knock the Hokage out, they had almost blown their cover as they had to hold in their laughter when they saw the face the old man made. She had felt so enraged and helpless as she saw the reactions of the group of ninjas. Rage for the hated words they dared to speak about her friend's son, the only prince of her land, and helplessness because there was nothing she could do about it. If she attacks them, they would learn the truth about Naruto's mother, and he would become a powerful political tool to them. His grandmother would pay a heavy price to have her grandson brought back to her, but one of those ninjas had caught her attentions. Iruka, wasn't it? He was Naruto's teacher if she had read the report on Naruto's life here correctly. The look in his eyes, he must have known where Naruto was. And so she had followed him, out into the darkness of the forest. She had already sent Soraya to bring the others to the forest, as she would leave a trail for them to follow her. Unfortunately, Setsuna had to make sure she didn't run too fast, as she would be detected by the leaf ninja. She had lost sight of Iruka a couple of times as she needed to keep back from using any of her real speed, and wait for other leaf ninjas to pass by as they look for Naruto. She just hopes that no one else would detect the scent trail she's leaving for the others to follow. So now she was running through the great forest of Konoha without any idea as to where to go. Only on the brief chance that she would find the prince before any of the other ninjas find them. But it turns out for once, fate was on her side. As the Delmo Kunoichi ran through the forest, a sudden crashing sound caught her attention. Skidding to a halt, Setsuna craned her head upward just in time to see Naruto with what must be the forbidden scroll in his arms slam full force into his teacher, Iruka. Naruto! Setsuna gasped in shock. What was he doing? Naruto, Iruka muttered, getting back to his feet. How did you know wasn't Iruka? With a poof of smoke, Iruka was gone, replaced with an unfamiliar white-haired ninja. There is a sinister look in his eyes. Simple. Naruto smirked, leaning heavily against a tree. Because I am. With a second poof of smoke, Naruto was revealed to be the real Irika. In all of her worry, Setsuna found a moment to curse herself. Was she really off the ball with her worrying about Naruto that she couldn't even see through a simple jutsu illusion? Being careful not to alert the two to her presence, Setsuna carefully crept her way to hide behind one of the nearby trees. She kept her eyes fixed upon the two ninjas, making sure that neither one would spot her. She only looked away when she bumped into something as she crept behind a tree. Startled, she looked down to see none other than Naruto. A startled and utterly puzzled look on his face as he looked at her. In his tightly gripped hands was the forbidden scroll. Setsuna Naruto was about to speak when Setsuna put a hand to her lips in a quieting motion. She then looked back around the tree at Irika and the other ninja. He's so noble. Mizuki sneered at the wounded ninja. To save your parents' murderer. And for what? What happens if we let him live? Then maybe the scroll is safe from a scumbag like you. Irika replied. Ugh, he had so many wounds from the earlier shuriken assault. His body felt like it could barely move. But Naruto was okay, that's all that mattered. Naruto and I are two of a kind, you know, Mizuki said, stepping closer. With that scroll, I can attain the same kind of limitless power. What? Irika asked. Mizuki couldn't be talking about. The demon within hungers for that kind of power, Mizuki exclaimed. You were right to fear him. Naruto couldn't believe it. So it was true then. His teacher really held him in contempt. The tears were starting to come to his eyes now. The scroll in his hands gripped bone-crushingly tight to his body. So it was true then. What Mizuki had said earlier. You are the nine-tailed demon fox who attacked Konoha 12 years ago. Haven't you always wondered why everyone always hated you? It all seemed to make such painful sense. All those years, all the glares, the scornful words. The feeling of complete loneliness. Get lost, you little brat. Don't go near that boy. He's nothing but trouble. He'll never amount to anything. It hurts so much, all of it. Just give up, you loser. You can't do it, can you? Now he understood. Now that you failed. Are you going to try again? He blinked. Wait, those hadn't been words of scorn. This is a nice swing. I bet it's nice to have someone to push you. That woman looking up, Naruto saw Setsuna staring down at him. Her eyes, they weren't filled with hatred, no. She was looking at him with sadness. Her hands were on his shoulders, holding on to him softly. Of course. Who wouldn't want such a nice boy to succeed? No, she didn't hate him, unlike everyone else. You're right. Naruto could hear Irika's voice. I do hate the fox. Setsuna's grip tightened on his shoulders. Irika was about to say something else when a fireball flew out from the tree line, hitting Mizuki. He screamed as he was set on fire, rolling on the ground to put out the flames before falling on the ground still. Irika turned to where the fireball came from, thinking that one of the leaf ninjas had saved him, but instead of seeing a leaf ninja, he saw 5 women. All of them are wearing gold-colored mini-dresses which just barely kept their underwear out of view. The top of their dresses have a hole cut right in the center of it. Their bosoms are stretching the fabric of the dresses to the ripping point, and all of them are staring angrily at him. One of them is really tall, over 8 feet, and heavily muscled. Another is really short, under 5 feet, with a black cloak wrapped around her body. 2 of the women look like sisters, one armed with a long cloth and the other an accordion. The one in front has gloves on and has flames coming out of her hands. Who are you? Irika asked the newcomers. He couldn't help but notice that all of them have figures that put to shame all of the women in the village. You're not going to live long enough to find out, the woman with the accordion said as she squeezed her instrument, causing a sound wave to hit him. Irika screamed as his eardrums burst from the sound before he blacked out. But just before he blanked out, he saw Naruto coming out from behind a tree in the corner of his eyes with a woman with the same busted build behind him. And he's still holding the scroll in his arms. How is he? Setsuna asked the ship's doctor as she waited outside the medic room of the ship. She and the rest of her team have been waiting around for the doctor to finish examining him. I gave him a sedative and he's resting right now, Carmen Taylor replied, taking a seat. The attractive medical officer of the Scarlet Rapier was dressed in a pair of tight gray trousers that clung to her slim figure, and a red top that was quite tight and low-cut, and pushed up a swelling cleavage between her firm, ample, Once he wakes up, have him place in my room, Kim said, as her room is the best in the ship. I'll watch over him, Setsuna said, as she feels she needs to be there for him, as she's the one who broke the news about his father to him. Maya, Rushuna watched the door. Kim, have the crew look around the ship in groups. There's still a chance that one of the Leaf ninjas might have gotten on board. I'll have it done, Kim said, as she headed for the control room to give out the orders. Everyone on board knew that if they lose their queen's grandson now, then they won't ever be able to come back home without him. I'll fly down and tell the other teams to head back now, Soraya said, as she heads for the deck outside. Good, Setsuna said, as she went inside the medic room with Maya and Rushuna guarding the door. Inside, she sees Naruto resting in one of the beds. His clothes have been removed and sent down to the washers as they needed a good cleaning. Looking down at his sleeping form, she couldn't help but to shed tears for him. Of what kind of life he has forced to live by a village who saw his father as a hero and him as a monster. How could he be still, have the will to live on after everything done to him? By now he should have been killing villagers left to right for how they had treated him. But instead wore that smiling mask he had shown when they had met in front of the school he went to. Kiko would have been proud of what kind of person you have become, Setsuna said softly as she strokes his forehead. She jerks back as he suddenly grabs a hold of her hand, holding it firmly. He looks into her eyes, his eyes empty of everything but sorrow. She was lost in his eyes as they were so deep and sad. You knew my mother? He finally spoke. She gave him a nod as he lets go of her hand. Can you tell me about her? Setsuna gave him a sad smile as she pulls up a chair next to his bed and began telling him everything about his mother that she knew of her, and the family Naruto didn't even knew he had, and the legacy she left behind for him to fill as the sole heir to the Queendom of Metal, who is also the leader of the Kingakunin, 3, known better as the Delmos. Homecoming. Neko Turley straightened her slim shoulders back, adjusted her green ponytail over her shoulder, and then adjusted her pink skirt and tunic one more time before leaving her new quarters to assemble with the rest of the new weapon assemblers. The young girl merged with the long line of young females quietly rushing to the gathering chamber ahead. Neko brushed a stray lock of green hair out of her lovely face, and then moved into place in the third row of the assembly. The group of girls stood silently at attention, their pink clothing spotless and orderly. A tall woman entered the chamber, and then walked proudly to the podium placed on a raised dais in front of the assembled girls. The woman was dressed in a neat pink business jacket, white blouse, and knee-length skirt. Silky black hose covered her long legs, while her feet were encased in polished black stiletto heels. The older woman slid her right hand over her slicked-back raven hair that ended in a tightly coiled ponytail. Good morning, ladies. My name is Eva and I will be your supervisor as you begin your first day on the assembly line. Our manager, Mr. Claw, has placed a great deal of faith in every one of you. I expect you to live up to Mr. Claw's expectations and perform your duties efficiently and quickly. The mid-quarter is almost upon us. We have to meet our production deadlines. Now go to your individual team leaders and make the best tools for our fellow Kingakunin that you can, said the older woman crisply. The gathered girls broke from their orderly lines to proceed to their work assignments. Neko left the chamber, traveled down several long hallways, and then descended one level to the electronics assembly area. The petite girl approached her team leader, a stern old woman named Sharon. Who are you? Snapped Sharon when she saw Neko approaching. My name is Neko. I'm a grade 6 assembler, replied the green-maned girl quickly. At age 14, Neko had just finished with her classes to become a pink Delmo, in the field of making and repairing the equipments that the upper-rank Delmos uses in the field. She wasn't that good in healing people while she was taking the medical classes. Grade 6? A beginner, huh? Go over to section 13 to screw on case lids, ordered Sharon with an abrupt raising of her right arm. Neko nodded her acceptance, and then hastily went to the indicated post. She picked up a motorized screwdriver from the small worktable in front of her, and then fastened screws into the case holes of the camera casing that rolled in front of her and stopped. Neko barely got all the screws in place before the camera rolled away to her left to be replaced by another unsealed unit. The beautiful young girl screwed the second case into place, slowly learning a style that allowed her to move smoothly from one unit to the next. Dozens, then hundreds of cameras passed beneath Neko, the repetitive procedure making her mind fuzzy and unfocused as she screwed the same holes again and again with her motorized screwdriver. "Neko," a voice behind her spoke, suddenly making her jump from the surprise. The woman standing before her has a fair complexion and knee-length dark brown hair that she tied in a fishtail style with a red tie. The young pink Delmo knew who she was very well, having been her tutor during their time the ninja school. At age 20, Tifa Lockhart was very beautiful. She was 5 feet 6 inches tall, weighed 115 pounds, and had unbelievable measurements. Her 38-inch S with a slender, well-developed build that accented her bust. Her waist was 22 inches and her cube but was 36. She wore a gray-color suit that did well to hide her lust figure underneath the confines of the leather vest she wore underneath her jacket, and her long legs with the loose slacks she wore. She is skilled in martial arts, and uses her fists and legs as her weapons. "Tifa, what are you doing here? Shouldn't you be making out with Cloud?" Neko asked. "Last that I heard, both of you had joined with the Turks." The name Turks is the unofficial nickname of the Investigation Division of the General Affairs Department of the Delmo Army. They perform covert operations on behalf of the royal family, including espionage, kidnappings, and assassinations. They also scout for potential candidates for Delmo's elite gold and silver units. They also serve as bodyguards for the Queen. Becoming a member of the Turks is something the very few people have the ability to become, as they are hand-picked by the leader of the Turks, who's been the husband of the current queen. Their numbers are always 13, with the members of the Turks always being couples, so that there's never any lone member who could betray them, as the wives would always be watchful of their husbands. The kunoichis who gain membership must first be married, as the royal family wants the members to have strong bonds and for the husbands to feel the need to defend their new homes. And the fact that all husbands within the top-ranking army and government who have active roles all have special jutsu seals placed on them, so that their wives can feel what they're feeling and know where they are at all times. Also meaning that the husbands can't hide anything from their wives, meaning that the husband can't go and cheat on her without her finding out. 1. The chief asked me and the others to gather some of the young new Delmos from each rank for an important assignment. Tifa answers her old trainee. I couldn't think of anyone else. Also, Aerith had him for the afternoon, which means he should have made it to headquarters by now if she went easy on him, that is. And yes, both me and Cloud are now members of Turks. Good for you too, Neko said to her friend. But my shift isn't over yet. Don't worry, Tifa said as she took the drill from her hands. After this you won't be working here anymore. I got you a new position where someone as friendly as you are will be of great help. Before Neko could say anything else, she was picked up by Tifa, who ran out of the building with Neko screaming for her to slow down. In the office of the Turks in the castle, an old man with short gray hair wearing a gray suit sat behind a large desk with papers stacked on top of it. He is Hunrock Delmo, the husband of Carline Delmo, the queen of the Land of Metal, father of Kiko and the grandfather of Naruto. In his 60s, the same as his wife, he's in good condition as he kept his body in good shape over the years. The same with his wife. Before him are the members of the Turks, which he's been in charge of ever since he first came to this land after meeting Carline when she was being escorted through the Land of Stone where he had lived. He was a laid-back guy even back then when he was still young, which caused Carline to lose her temper when they had gotten into an argument over a card game, which he had won, and using smart comebacks on her didn't help matters either. She and her escort left the following morning after she had ordered her guards to teach him a lesson, which ended with most of the inn destroyed in the following fight. And he had somehow managed to grab Carline's family crest that she kept around her neck. In short, he traveled to the Land of Metal where he had given back her family crest, and somehow during his time in the castle he had gotten himself married to her, after he found out he had broken into the castle to give back the princess crest, which he had only thought was a staff member of the castle up till then. Alright people, once Tifa gets back we can start, Hunrock said to the current members of the Turks, all dressed in uniformed gray-color suits, who have all but one had gotten here with their missions completed. Saying Raucus is the stern but polite and calm, second in command of the Turks. He has long, black hair and what appears to be a taluk in the middle of his forehead. Though he is still young, he has been an active member of the Turks for more than 5 years now. His combat skills are in using razor-sharp steel wires, able to cut into flesh and bones like a hot knife through butter. Before he got married he was in charge of managing the castle guards. He had came here looking for a position in the army when his combat skills caught the eye of the queen's husband, who placed him into managing the defensives of the castle. When he finally got married, he was soon placed into the Turks. His wife is Elena Rakis, is in her late 20s with short, blonde hair and brown eyes. Before she joined the group, she was a high school student whose father was a teacher in the military academy, and whose older sister and husband were members of the Turks, before stepping down from their positions when she and her husband wanted to start a family. Though she resented and wanted no contact with her sister and the other Turks for outperforming her in their status, an encounter with them convinced her to join the group. Elena is naive, impetuous, and somewhat overeager, with a loose tongue that sometimes causes her to inadvertently reveal secret information. She takes her job much more seriously than the rest of the team do, and also becomes quite frustrated with their casual, laid-back attitudes. As in her words, "How in the world you people, a bunch of slackers and misfits, ever became Turks, I'll never know." But with Hunrock in command of the Turks, he likes how the members act, as they would be too hardcore otherwise. Cloud Lockhart, who had taken his wife's clan name, his appearance is marked by spiky blonde hair, vivid blue eyes. He doesn't look it, but he's really strong as he wields a buster blade in battle. Judging from its relative size compared to the 5 feet 7 inches Cloud, it must be over a foot in width and at least 5 feet in length, and he swings it around like it's a normal-sized sword. He is also married to 2 wives, as sometimes 2 of the Delmo women would fall for the same guy, and instead of fighting over him, they just share him. That way the wives, whenever their husband tried to do something they don't like, they can gang up on him, making the punishment ever worse, since there's more than one angry wife breathing down the guy's neck. And from the way he's breathing and the sweat still covering his forehead, he must have just came back from one of his workout sessions with his other wife Aerith, who's part of the Pink Delmos, since she always did like wearing pink. Cypher Almasy has short blonde hair, green eyes, and a scar across his forehead. He has, like Cloud, recently joined the Delmo clan. Although Cypher is a gifted warrior, he has a stubborn, arrogant, reckless, and unpredictable nature. He uses a one-handed sword in battle. He uses fire-type jutsus, and combines them with his sword, making the blade red-hot as it cuts into the flesh of his opponents. The red-hot metal burning shut the blood vessels before the blood could start pouring out, making him ideal for covert operations, since when he kills with his sword he doesn't leave any blood behind. His wife is Fujin Almasy, is a young woman with pale skin, short silver hair, and an eye patch. She is incredibly dedicated to her duty in protecting her homeland and to the Turks. Fujin speaks in single-word sentences, which she normally yells. These pronouncements typically summarize her emotional state or declare pejorative statements. For example, rage and lies are all she says. In battle, Fujin wields a chakram, which she throws at her opponents, and using a return jutsu has it fly back to her after it hits something. Raijin Tilmid is a strong-looking member of the Turks. He and his wife usually team up with Cypher and Fujin. He is a very laid-back and rather slow-witted person. Whenever he and his wife Selfie appears together, Selfie is clearly the one in charge and the one who does all the talking. He always ends his sentences with "you know," and sometimes opts out of explaining difficult things. In battle, Raijin uses a long staff with 2 large battering weights on either end. His wife, who he had taken her family name, Selfie Tilmid, is spunky, hyper, and somewhat childish. Selfie seems misplaced as part of an elite military academy, but she is actually a valuable asset to the party. She is highly talented with machinery. She wields oversized nunchaku in battle and lets her husband tear into the enemy first before she steps in. Despite her girlish demeanor, she also shows flashes of a subtle bloodthirsty streak and an unexpectedly black sense of humor. Reno Treep is a prominent member of the Turks with a lanky physique, unkempt red hair terminating in a long ponytail, and 2 symmetrical red marks on his cheekbones, apparently tattoos, though popularly believed to be scars. He is always seen wearing goggles on his forehead, an unzipped suit jacket, and an untucked dress shirt. He is cocky, cynical, and somewhat lazy, but is highly skilled and takes great pride in his work. His fighting skills are obviously far above the level of a normal ninja's, as he can hold his own against a group of gold Delmos. In battle, he wields a retractable metallic rod which can deal electric shocks. His wife is Quistis Treep, while serving as a Turk, is also an instructor at the Ninja Academy when she isn't on a mission. She wears glasses and is in her early 20s but acts more mature than her husband. She is widely admired by the students of the academy she works at while she isn't on missions, and even has a fan club known as the Trepe Eyes. She's one of the top jutsus users in the Land of Metal, making her having to stay back as her husband protects her while doing jutsus. She also uses a whip both in battle and making her slacker husband move his lazy butt into gear. The last two members are Rude Go, a tall, naturally bald, dark-skinned man with a slight goatee. He always wears sunglasses and carries spare pairs with him. Rude is rarely seen without his longtime partner, Reno, who they had worked together before meeting their wives, and is rather taciturn, tending to relegate the talking to Reno. Rude is a superb physical combatant, and prefers to use his fists in battle. He's slow, but he has the strength to smash his way through walls with ease and can take more damage to his body than most others can. His wife is Pain Go, a sore woman. She has silver hair and red eyes thanks to her clan's bloodline, which allows her see in anything, even in pitch black darkness. She doesn't speak much, only saying what she needs to get her point across. Her skill with the blade is so great that she can deflect anything that is thrown at her with one swing of her sword. Her sword is a long double edge that's colored black to make it harder to be seen at night, giving her the nickname Blackblade. And standing in front of his desk are 6 young girls, all near his grandson's age. They're what he had sent the Turks out to do when he and his wife received a message of the gold Delmos that were sent to bring their grandson to them. We're coming back with him. He would have sent the Turks out with them, but all of them were on other missions and the ones that weren't on mission weren't allowed to go. His wife had told him that the gold Delmos she had sent would be able to complete the mission, as she had sent their late daughter's personal bodyguard Setsuna, who had taken their daughters running away as hard as they were close as sisters. He knew with her she wouldn't come back without her friend's son with her. The girls in front of him are all from different Delmo ranks. He had looked over the files of each of them when the Turks had reported in their findings. The first is Erica Fontaine of the Green Delmos, a 13-year-old teenager who works as a priestess when she isn't doing work as a Delmo. When she was young, her parents died in a fire accident, and she survives when she accidentally uses her bloodline power of making an energy shield around her. She went off to live in a temple to live as a priestess to learn how to control her bloodline better, as well as starting her schooling in the Ninja Academy. Years had passed by and she made a lot of mistakes in the temple due to her misunderstanding and clumsiness. Some of which is that she once cleans the sanctuary and in the end, one of the statues was shined into pieces. When she was in charge and plucking out of the grass near the church, she plucks out the flower bed too, and when she was in charge of the cooking, the misfortunes became more miserable after tasting her cooking. Due to the reason, she was actually asked to leave the convent, but due to her misunderstanding and impression of the head priest saying, she stayed there for 6 more months, before she signed up to become a Kangakunin. She is quite skilled in using bows and crossbows, rarely missing a target. Glycine Bloommare of the Orange Delmos, a rich noble daughter from the Bloommare family. At age 16 she is already showing the signs of what kind of beauty she will be when she gets older. The Bloommare family have always been supporters of the Delmo royal family both in fighting and business affairs. She inherited her father's massive strength, which she uses, as she's the only one in her class who uses a halberd which she gotten from her father as a gift in battle. Lobila Carlini, who before she joined the Purple Delmos was a thief. She's actually a former prisoner who was sentenced to 1,000 years and later stated her death statement due to her crimes like stealing jewels and arts and destroying public property. Because of 80% of the incidents was her doing, she earns the title for the greatest thief in the Land of Metal. All before she was 16, and the reason why she was offered to become a Purple Delmo because of her great speed. Her trademark weapons are the chains she keeps in her coat she always wears over her Delmo uniform. Kitaji Hanabi of the Blue Delmos, a very quiet and shy 15-year-old girl. Because that her father, Kitaji Mazamichi, made many dealings with the House of Bloommare, Glycine was taking care of her while they were both in school together. They have been friends since then. She's also quite skilled in using a long bow and rarely misses her target. She and Glycine always work as a team, with Glycine attacking head-on and Kitaji giving support fire. Gemini Sunrise of the Yellow Delmos, an outgoing 12-year-old girl. She grew up on the farm her family runs in the grasslands around the city. She learned how to ride a horse before she learned how to walk. She uses a lance in battle as she always goes out with her horse Butterscotch, making her a very powerful mounted fighter. She and her horse portals the streets of the city, making it easy for her to get through crowded streets sitting on her horse. They move as one, and even Gold Delmos found the skills they show impressive. Then there's Coquelicot Nakura, the youngest at the age of 10 and of the Black Delmos. She used to work and lives with an amusement park. She was always seen collecting leftovers in the town market and treating the amusement park animals as her friends. She takes care of the animals in the pens of the Delmo campus, while taking care of the jobs she's hired for, as the Black Delmos are basically the city's workforce. Since there are way more women in the city than men, all of the young girls in the city all go through school learning the basic skills of a ninja, like a gym class, gaining the ranks of Black Delmos when they finish school, so that all of the women of the city know how to fight, and those who want to can either become normal citizens or become full ninjas. Hi guys, sorry, I'm late. Tifa shouted as she enters the room, making the Turks chuckle as her husband Cloud lowers his head, mumbling to himself, "Got the last member right here." She pulls Neko into the room by her arm, placing her in front of their king. "All of you must be wondering why you all have been brought here today?" Hunrock asked them. "Yeah, tell us!" Coquelicot shouted as she lifts herself on the desk as she could barely see past the top, making the older women in the room saying how cute she is. "As you must have all heard about, my grandson Naruto is going to be brought back to his homeland, right?" he asked them. All of the girls in front of him nodded, but for Coquelicot was still trying to get a good view of her king. "No, I didn't." "Well, he is," Hunrock said, looking at Coquelicot, who's resting her chin on his desk. "The reason you all have been brought here is that all of you have been hand-picked by the Turks, who pick you out of all the young candidates. You all will become my grandson's servants when he arrives, as well as his bodyguards. The reason why older girls weren't picked is because me and my wife want you all to become his friends, which older girls would find it difficult to do since he's still 12 and needs to have kids around his own age." "That sounds fun!" Coquelicot shouted out. The other girls all muttered to themselves as what this would mean to them and their families, as Naruto is the first male to be born in this village who carries the same bloodline as all of them do, making him the first prince of the Land of Metal, the first time since the ninja clan and royal family had joined together hundreds of years ago. "What will our jobs be?" Glycin asks as she wonders what her family will think when they find out about this. Her mother will think it's disgraceful for a member of the Blue Mare to serve someone, but knowing her grandmother, the head of the family, she'll go for it, as this is the first time that there's a chance that the Blue Mare family are able to marry into the royal family, as up till now there hasn't been any males born in either family. Which means with her as his servant she'll have a position where she can become engaged to the new prince, allowing the two powerful families to join together. "And how much does it pay?" Lobile asked, wondering what kind of job would need someone of her talents for. "You'll have the same wages as the Gold Delmos, and all of you have talents that the Turk have seen in either defending Naruto from harm, or how well you get along with others. Also to become his friends, as from the reports he has none in the Leaf Village," Hunrock explains. "I will serve your grandson with all my heart," Neko said, as this would mean a lot to her family. "And don't worry, I'm sure we will become friends." Gemini shouted out, wondering if the prince knows how to ride a horse. "I'll do my best," Erica said as she slams her hands on the desk and knocking a paperweight off, making it fly through the air, hitting a cabinet, sending the books in it falling out right on top of Reno and Rudo, who were quickly buried underneath a pile of books. Everyone in the room looked at Erica, who simply replied with an "Oops." "Does that also mean we have to sleep with him?" Kitaji asked nervously. She knows that some of the older girls talk freely about sleeping with guys in the surrounding villages and towns, since they don't have to worry about becoming pregnant until the seals on their stomachs are removed. "No, nothing like that," Hunrock said, waving her off. "You're all way too young for that kind of thing." "Hey, now that's something I wouldn't mind," Reno said as his wife was helping him out from under the pile of books. Pain had already pulled Rudo free from the pile of books. "Oh, really now?" Quistis asks as she looks coldly at him. She tips the cabinet down, making it fall right on top of him, causing him to cry out in pain as it began crushing him. And making sure he wasn't going anywhere, she sat down on it, trapping her husband under it. "I'm not good enough for you," causing the most of the people in the room to laugh, as this is something that happens between them all the time. Some have gotten the idea that the only reason Quistis had married Reno was that she likes hitting him when he does something stupid. That always happens at least once a week. Selfie, take these girls over to the storage room and show them their new uniforms, Hunrak asked her. Alright, follow me girls, Selfie said to the young girls leading them out of the room. Hunrak, what's the real reason you called us here for? Sang asked, as he knows that this isn't just about finding the right girls to help ease the changes that Naruto will face once he becomes the crown prince. Yes, you're right, this is more than just finding some playmates for my grandson, Hunrak said. I want all of you to head out to the Land of Fire and recover any documents the Leaf Village has on my daughter and her family. I want nothing left for them to trace back to us or have any information they can use against us. We will have it done, Sang said as all the members smacked their right hand on their chest. Except for Reno, who's still pleading with his wife to let him go. By the way, I have been wondering, Raijin spoke up, if all the past commanders of the Turks have been the husbands of the queen who will be in command when Naruto becomes king, Everyone in the room blinked as Raijin has asked a good question for once. Hunrak nodded as he and his wife had talked about this. The next leader of the Turks is whoever becomes his wife. I hope whoever she is, she doesn't act like the women I know. Reno chuckles, making all the women in the room to glare at him. Hold it! Quistis shouted as she saw the female members about to pounce on her husband. If anyone is going to smack him around, it's going to be me. She adjusts her glasses as she took out her whip as her husband Reno sweated as she smiles wickedly down upon him. High above in the sky, there it is, the queendom where your mother was born at, Setsuna said as she's on the deck of the ship as they came within sight of the central city of metal, Ironmount. The city is a walled city, but the city had soon outgrown the walls and had spread out beyond the confines of the wall that separated the old part of the city from the newer city. The city sat on 4 major trade routes of the western lands, making it very rich in trade and political power. There are many waterways and fountains in the city, making it easy to transport objects through the city and gave the city a clean drinking supply. The entire city is made from stonework, making fires rare in the city, and all the streets of the city are cobblestone roads, making it a beautiful city to visit. That's nice, Naruto said softly as he sat in the chair placed on the deck for him, doing nothing more than staring at the horizon. Naruto, Setsuna whispered as she doesn't like how Naruto is becoming, as all he does ever since she and her team had taken him from the Leaf Village is sat around doing nothing. She blames herself for what's happening to him, as she was the one who told him everything about his life that was hidden from him all at once, making his already unstable mind at the time more unstable. She only hopes that there's a way to help him break free from the deep depression he's in now. All of the ship's crew are always watching him, as he might try to end his life as he's that far now. We'll be landing shortly, all crew must be inside the ship as we land, Kim's voice said over the loudspeakers. Come on, let's go inside and get you ready to meet your grandparents, Setsuna said as she helps him to his feet. Alright, Naruto said as he walks into the ship with Setsuna holding his hand. In his mind, he wonders what he's going to be expected to do once he becomes the crown prince of this strange new land. Something about this place makes him feel like he's someplace that makes him feel safe and warm, a place to call home. And if this place is just like the Leaf, well, there's only one choice left for him then. The hidden village of the Leaf was busy as the villagers worked to rebuild their village after the battle that took place a few days ago. The ninjas who had passed the exams to become ninjas were told that they'll have to wait, as many of the older ninjas were too injured to be able to test them whether they start their training to become ninjas or go back to the school. As their teacher Irika is in intensive care. Most of his body has been broken, and the amount of blood lost would have killed him if the ones who did this to him had finished the job instead of leaving him in the forest to die. One of the Umbu had found him and had gotten him to the hospital in time to save his life, and the students were more interested in what the 5 women who caused the damage to the village took first. They took the forbidden scroll written by the 4th Hokage. Second, the women took Naruto the last place in the class. Is this all we have on them? Sarutobi, the 3rd Hokage, said as the Umbu in his office gave him the report on the women who took Naruto from the village. Yes, this is all we managed to gather on them, the Umbu said as he handed the Hokage the folder containing all of the information on the women who were posing as travelers looking of an inn to rest at. What of the carriage and the horses they use? The 3rd asked. There's nothing to identify where the carriage came from. Judging from the makeup of the carriage, it's one of the new armor-plated carriages that are made to transport important people. The horses are of a prime breed, they have been bred for speed and stamina. The horse breeders are already clamoring to get the horses as they never seen such prime-bred horses outside of a royal court before. Whoever these women are, they're well funded, as those horses alone are worth 10 years' pay for an umbu like me, the ninja said. 1. Since they didn't mind losing those horses, it can only mean that whoever sent them didn't minded losing such an expensive investment in the time and effort it takes to breed them. Plus the airship, which alone, if it was built here, would bankrupt us just to have it built, let alone the cost of maintaining it, means that they have very deep pockets, Sarutobi said as he sat back in his chair. How's Iraka doing? He's still recovering from his injuries he received from those women. I still don't understand why they didn't kill him when they had the chance instead of leaving him there, the ninja asked to no one. They wanted him to die alone in the forest after hearing what he felt about Naruto. The third answered his question. The women seemed to care deeply about Naruto's well-being. That's the reason why they didn't kill him then and there, so he could die a slow death. The door of his office opened as his female secretary came in. Hokage, Jiraiya and Tsunade have arrived. All right, send them in, Sarutobi said as he had sent messengers to find his 2 students. Since they have been traveling around, they might be able to shed some light on the clues they managed to find on the women who took Minato's son from his village. He waves the 2 umbu in the office to leave him alone so he could talk to his 2 students alone. Walking into the office is a white-haired pervert and a buxom blonde who may be in her 50s but looks, thanks to a jutsu, around 20-something. We came as soon as we heard about the attack, Tsunade said as she and her fellow students step in front of their old teacher. Naruto has been taken by women who are as stacked as Tsunade here? Jiraiya asked as he heard about how stacked the women are from the male ninjas in the village. There isn't time for you to act like yourself now, Sarutobi said to his student as he slides the folder with the information on the women in front of the 2. I need you 2 to look over this and see if you can narrow down who the women are working for. You have been around, maybe you'll be able to figure out the clues we found on them. Alright, we give it a shot, Tsunade said, looking over the photos in the folder. While they do have the same kind of busted-built old flat chest has here now, Jiraiya said, looking over the photos that were taken of the women during the chase. He got a punch in his gut by Tsunade, who doesn't like to be reminded what she was built like when she was younger. 2. Wait a moment here, Tsunade said as she looks closely at the photos of the women. I think I know where they came from. They remind me of the Delmos of the Land of Metal. The Kengakunin, the third said, recalling the last time he had a personal encounter with one of the women from the Land of Metal. That would explain a lot about how they were able to use so many powerful jutsus without running out of chakra. That's the reason why I rarely go to the Lands of Metal, Jiraiya spoke up. They might dress in revealing outfits, but they seem to find someone peeking on them to be very offending, and you have no idea how many powerful jutsus they know. With the bloodline they all have, they never run out of energy. Gathering energy from their surroundings makes them very powerful, Tsunade adds. Hidden villages all over have been trying to get the Delmo bloodline into one of their clans for generations now. Since they only have female children meant that the villages couldn't get a male of the Delmos to sleep with a couple of women of a clan. And the fact that they all have a seal on them that doesn't allow them to bear a child till after it's removed by their family means that no hidden village has ever been able to get the Delmo bloodline into their clan. Why would they want to kidnap Naruto, and how did they know that the Forbidden Scroll was written by Minato? Sarutobi asked his 2 old students. Well, besides us, the only one that knew about the scroll was his wife, since he was working on it at home. She was carrying Naruto at the time, Jiraiya said, remembering back to 12 years ago before the 9-tailed fox came to the village. You don't think that Kiko leaked that information, do you? Tsunade asked out loud. About 2 months ago her diary she kept that was kept in the file room went missing, Sarutobi said. She had started writing in that book once she learned she wouldn't be able to go out and fight with Minato till she gives birth to their child. But that still doesn't explain why they took Naruto, Jiraiya said as he looks at the photos of the women that took him. Kiko couldn't have been one of the Delmos since she didn't have the childless seal on her, and she gave birth to a male child, which everyone who knows about Delmos, they can only have female children. But maybe she knew someone there, Tsunade suggested. That would explain why she fights like one of them, Jiraiya said as he remembers the fights she and Minato used to have that would quickly become a street fight against the couple, as they always loved fighting and showing how far they came along in their training to each other. I should look over the files on her, maybe there's a clue in them, Sarutobi said as Kiko only told Minato about her life after she had been beaten by him. She had left Naruto a necklace with a strange chest design on the locket made of a mix of gold and silver along with her other belongings that are all being kept inside the file room. He called his secretary to get the box holding the belongings of the fourth Hokage and his late wife to his office. In the archives, you think that the file room would have been better kept than this, Quistis said as she looks through the boxes looking for the box they came for. They had sneaked into the archive an hour ago and started looking through all of the boxes that contained the belongings of the late Princess Kiko and her late husband. The room is filled with file cabinets and wooden boxes containing files and belongings of the residents of the hidden village. The entire fifth floor of the Hokage Tower is nothing more than a file room to hold all of the documents that are on the residents both past and present. The room therein is the one that holds the belongings of the past Hokages as well as some of the powerful clans of the village. They should be way in the back somewhere, Pain said as she hands another box to her husband. I just wish that they put the boxes by data or clan than just stacking them like this, Ruto said as he lifts several boxes in his arms out of the way as his wife and Quistis stack more boxes on top of each other. I found it! Reno shouted as he jumps down from the ladder holding a wooden chest in his arms. Finally, Ruto said as he opens the large armor-plated briefcase they had brought along to hold the contents of the box they came for. Wait, let's make sure that it's the real thing, Quistis said as she opens the box her husband is holding up for her. Can you hurry, it's heavy, Reno said as he wants to set the box down. Quite, or I bring out the whip again, she said back, making her husband steady himself as he holds the box as his wife looks over the things inside of it. All right, dump it, Quistis said as they have the right box. Reno nods as he empties the contents of the box into the briefcase. Finally we can go, Pain said as she turns to leave when the door leading out opens and a surprise file clerk saw the people in the room. Before he could react, Pain crossed the room in a heartbeat, hitting him in his gut with the butt of her sword. Looking outside of the room, Pain cursed as she saw several clerks running off shouting for help. We got to get out of here now. Hit the fire alarm, it will confuse them, Quistis shouts as most of the people would only think there's a fire, not thieves, in the building. On it! Pain shouts as she hits the fire alarm and joins the others as they made their escape as the fire system activates. The fire system turning on, spraying the floors with water, giving the four Turks the cover they need to escape. Pushing past the crowds of panicking people in the building, they got out to a fire escape and climbed down it into one of the alleyways as the sounds of the fire wagon bells came closer. Ruto carried the case as they ran for their escape route out of the city when several shurikens struck in front of them. Looking up, they saw a busted blonde and a silver-haired man jumping down from a window of the tower. What are the Turks doing here? Jiraiya asked as he recognized the suits the four people in front of them are wearing. He heard about the deep ops of the Land of Metal under the direct command of the royal family. In truth, he had only heard rumors about them as they rarely did any missions in the eastern lands where they're at now. I heard that you guys stick to the western lands. What are you guys doing here in the east? Tsunade said as she glares at the four Turk members. Well, we came here to get something and we're not going to leave without it, Pain said as she readies her sword for battle. Reno, Ruto, you two get out of here. Me and Pain will handle these two weaklings, Quistis said, taking out her whip. Weak? Both of the third Hokage old students said at the same time. Yes, weak, Pain said as her and Quistis' husbands ran down the alleyway, carrying the important documents they came here to get. Everyone in the West knows that the countries in the eastern lands are the tamest compared to the lands to the west of here. Quistis smiles as she adjusts her glasses. 3. Besides, with women like us around, the other countries had to get stronger to keep up with us, Pain said as she and Quistis charge at the two leaf ninjas. Tsunade pushed Jiraiya back as she blocks the sword strike from Pain with a kunai and the whip crack from Quistis by grabbing it with her hand. Go get those guys, Jiraiya, she shouts to her teammate. I hold them back. Be careful, he shouts, jumping up the building's sides till he reached the top and ran by rooftop after the two male Turks. You really think you can hold us for long? Pain smiles as she began forcing Tsunade back as she puts more churka into her body, more than the leaf ninja could ever do. You have no idea who you're dealing with here, Tsunade shouts as she jumps back, breaking the weapon lock. Neither do you, Quistis said as she began doing hand size for a powerful jutsu as Pain began attacking the leaf ninja again, keeping her away from her teammate. Tsunade fought off the sword strikes against her, but she couldn't keep it up for long as she has to pump so much churka into her body just to keep up with the red-eye woman. The way she moved was like the sword was a part of her body. Pain seeing Quistis done with the jutsu waiting for her to stop playing around, she evades Tsunade kunai and strikes her in the back of her kneecaps, making her fall to her knees with the back of her sword. The last thing Tsunade saw was the blonde woman with glasses throwing a jutsu at her. The alleyway soon glowed brightly as a blue light suddenly flashed, following a female scream. A couple of blocks away. You think it was wise to just leave them there? Ruto asks as he carries the case. No, but if we didn't, you know what would have happened to us, Reno said as he takes out his rod preparing to fight his way out. Hold it right there! Someone shouted as several ninjas surrounded them. Raijin burst out from one of the buildings through a wall, swinging his staff at the ninjas in front of Reno and Ruto, knocking them out of the way. Get going, you know! The Leaf ninjas threw their shurikens at the large man in the gray suit, but they were batted away by Selfie as she joins her husband, spinning her oversized nunchaku, making a shield to protect her husband from the attack. Leave this to us, we'll join you guys later. Thanks for the help, Reno shouts as he and Ruto ran through the opening their teammate made for them. Not a problem, Selfie smirks as she began attacking the Leaf ninjas, following her husband's lead as he smashed his way through the ranks of the ninjas. Spinning his staff at a high speed, Raijin deflects the shurikens thrown at him as he powers his way through. None of the ninjas could get close to him. Despite his sizes, he is very agile and could quickly turn around facing anyone who dares to attack him. Selfie raises her nunchakus up by the handles, making them glow as she charges a lightning jutsu with them. She fires the bolt into the sky, making the lightning bolt broke into dozens of lightning bolts, striking down all of the ninjas in the area. That was quick, you know, Raijin said as he headbutts the last standing ninja, knocking her out, breaking her mask as he did in two. Yeah, I thought these guys would be stronger, Selfie said as she looks at the fallen bodies of the Leaf ninjas. In another part of the city, here comes those two slackers now, Cypher said as he and his wife Fujin sat at a tea shop, and there's a group of high-level Anbu coming along also. Should we fight them? Fight, Fujin said, taking a phase. Now, let's do it then, Cypher said as he sat up, drawing out his sword. He and his wife step into the middle of the road as Reno and Ruto ran past, standing in the way of the ninjas who are giving chase. Get out of the way! Anko yells as she and the others in her group halt as the couple blocks them from following. Come! Fujin said as she grips her chakram tightly. You're going to fight all of us? Shikaku Nara asked as he and his old teammate Inoichi Yamanaka were called out of retirement, as so many of the village ninjas are still recovering from their wounds they took during the kidnapping of Naruto, like their other teammate Chozo Akimichi, who's recovering from the burns he received from the fire dragon that slammed into him. Let's show these weaklings our power, Cypher smiled as he gathers energy in his hand, making the Leaf ninja's eyes widen as they could see the churka being gathered in his outstretched arm. When he gathered enough, he fires a fireball into the crowd of ninjas, making them jump back as the flaming ball explodes. Destroy! Fujin yells as she throws her chakram after her husband's fireball. The throwing weapon began spinning, gathering air, making the flaming sparks left over from the blast to gather around it, feeding the flames, making them grow into a flaming tornado. They combine their attacks. Inoichi yells as he sees what the two strangers are doing. But there was little he could do as the woman with the eye patch is making hand size, controlling the fire tornado, making it go after the ninjas. I'll take care of you! Anko yells as she aims for the person controlling the tornado. But the guy suddenly appears in front of her, blocking her kunai with his long sword. Sorry, but you're going to have to deal with me first, Cypher smirks as he shoves his hand in Anko's face and blasts her with a point-blank fireball, sending her flying backwards through a window of a store. Protect! Fujin shouts out to her husband as she controls the tornado, making the ninjas run for cover as the flaming wind raised the heat levels of the area, making the houses nearby start to burn. I always do, Cypher smirks, enjoying the fireworks his wife is making out of the buildings. Back to the two male Turks members. Reno, are we almost there yet? Ruto asks as he has the briefcase in his arms as he ran through the panicking streets. Almost there, Reno shouts back to her partner. Hold it right there! Jiraiya shouts as he and the other top Umbu members jump in front of them. Great, now we got to fight, Reno said as he extends his rod out to its full length. Can you handle this? We can't lose it now, Ruto said as he knows if he lets go of the briefcase one of the leaf ninjas would take it. What, and have all of the fun for myself? Reno asks as he smirks at the assembled leaf shinobis. You're not going anywhere, Sarutobi said, appearing behind the two Turks. What does the land of metal want with Naruto? Sorry, but we're under orders not to tell you anything, Ruto said as he turns to face the Hokage while Reno keeps his eyes to the front. If we did, our wives are going to make anything you guys can think of look like a spa treatment, Reno said as he grips his rod. Besides, we're right where we want to be, Ruto said as Reno drops a small ball he held in his hands, making a blinding flash of light, and Ruto throws the briefcase high into the air. Someone catch it! Sarutobi shouts out as he locks his eyes onto the case as it hovers in the air. But before anyone could move, something jerks the case like it's being pulled through the air by something. Everyone's eyes are locked onto the case as it flies into the hands of a man with long dark hair. Besides him is a short-haired blonde woman, both standing on top of a nearby building. I'll take this if you don't mind. You two handle these guys, the blonde woman said as both of them disappear from sight. You're not getting away, Sarutobi shouts as he runs after them. Hokage! One of the masked Umbu shouted and was about to follow when the building the Hokage had used as a jump point to follow the two with the briefcase collapses as a spiky blonde-haired man carrying a huge buster sword stood on the ruins of the building with a woman with long brown hair. Sorry, but you guys aren't going to be helping him, Tifa said as she pulls on her fighting gloves that has metal knuckles on them. You think you can stop all us? One of the ninjas shouted as he jumps at the pair. The spiky-haired man slaps the ninja out of the way with a swing of his massive sword, using the flat side of the sword like a bat. Yes, we do, Cloud said as he rested his large, heavy sword in his shoulder. You guys have it so easy here in the East, Tifa smirks. You guys never had to deal with the kind of power we have to face regularly on the West. Reno smiles as he charges up his rod. And that's because the land of metal acts like a buffer zone between the West and the East, Ruto said, cracking his knuckles. Now let's show you guys how far you are from us in terms of power. Ruto grabs a lamp pole and rips it out of the ground and began swinging it at the leaf ninjas. They're surprised at the speed he's able to swing the long and heavy metal pole. He breaks open a hydrant, and the torrent of water knocks a couple of ninjas down, filling the street with water. Reno smiles as he charges up his electric to full power and plunges it into the puddle of water, giving the ninjas stand on the water a shock of their lives. Jiraiya runs to help but was stopped as Cloud appears in front of him. He barely blocks the buster sword with a kunai as Cloud, using the heavier weapon, forced the pervert ninja back with a shove of his massive weapon. How the heck can you swing something like that and keep it up? Jiraiya asks, as someone of his build and size shouldn't be able to swing that super heavy weapon around like that. Well, he has a lot of endurance training thanks to me and Aerith. Tifa smiles wickedly as she slams her fist into the face of an Umbu, breaking his mask in two. She grabs the leg of another who had big eyebrows as he tried kicking her and began swinging him around, slamming his body into the bodies of his fellow ninjas. I heard that Delmo women sometimes share a man when two of them fall of him, Jiraiya said as he throws shurikens at Cloud, who blocks them all with his sword. I always thought that those were just tall tales guys tell of the women there. I know guys who have dozens of wives, Cloud said as he remembers from the reports he read on the Leaf Village ninjas that Jiraiya is a big-time pervert. As he had expected, the pervert froze as he thought about what a single guy can do with a group of women, allowing him to swing his sword, hitting Jiraiya with the flat side of his sword, sending him slamming into the side of a building, and before he could recover, Cloud slams into him with the butt of his sword, making a hole as both of their bodies broke through it. On top of the hospital. They're late again, Elena said as she stares at her pocket watch. They'll be here, Sang said to his wife as they waited for their ride, as well for the others to handle the people they're fighting and get to where they are before they're left behind. You're not leaving this time, Sarutobi shouted as he tore off his robes, revealing his ninja suit he wore under it. Trying to make up for lost time, are we now? Sang said to the Hokage of the Leaf. Naruto has chosen to come with us. Or are you forgetting the look he gave you when you tried to take him back? Elena reminded him. He's in the land of metal right now, and there's no way we're going to let you guys use him or hurt him ever again. Use him? Sarutobi shouted. You're the one who's turning him against his village. I'm going to enjoy it when Naruto finally decides to make war on this village, Elena smirks. Make war on the Leaf? Sarutobi said, puzzled by her words. Dear, you did it again, Sang said, reminding her about her habit of leaking information out like that. So the old man is the Hokage of this village? Krista said as she and the other members of Turks appeared behind Sarutobi. How strong were the ones you were fighting? Elena asked them. They're still weak from the damage Setsuna and her team made when they were escaping. Selfie laughed as she made sure to show them the power of the Delmo elites. Yeah, you know, her husband Raijin agreeing with her. Weak! Fujin simply stated. Tell me, why does the Queen of Metal is doing this? What does she wants with Naruto? Sarutobi growls as he knows he's no match for all of them. Well, you did try to live up to the promise you made to his father to look after him after all. But you could have done better, much better, Sang said. I'll tell you this much. Naruto is the first male to ever be born with the bloodline of the Delmo flowing through his veins. His bloodline ability is laying dormant for now, only a simple matter of waking it up. Kiko was from metal then, Sarutobi said as he remembers when she first found out she was carrying a boy and how much she and cried in joy of finding out. Because she's carrying the first male to ever be born in her ninja clan's bloodline. Elena was about to say something when Sang cups her mouth. Now dear, if you can't keep it to yourself, don't say anything at all. Elena murmured as she kept her mouth shut. Here's our ride, Tifa said as she and the others grabbed onto the cable lines sweeping through the air as a small, fast airship flew over the village. Sarutobi could do nothing but watch as the Turks were being pulled up into the airship, hanging onto the cable lines already out of range. At least he now knows why the Queen of Metal had ordered her ninjas to take Naruto by any means. For years hidden villages have been trying to get the bloodline of the Delmos into their villages, because of the seal that's placed on the young women, making it impossible for them to become with child while having the seal on them. Since they can only have female children, it made it hard for any village to get their bloodline into one of their clans. But with a male Delmo, it would be a simple matter of having him sleep with as many women possible to spread the bloodline through a village. It's no wonder they wanted Naruto so much, as he could single-handedly spread their well-protected bloodline throughout a village once it becomes common knowledge that any child of his would have the bloodline power to gather chakra from their surroundings. All of the clans of the village would send one of their young girls to seduce him to make Naruto a part of their clan. Any clan of the village that would have managed to get Naruto to marry into it would quickly become the most powerful clan of the village. So that's why you wanted the village to see Naruto as a hero, Sarutobi said sadly to himself. Naruto would have been the greatest gift to the village that you died to protect. Through him would have given us an entire generation with the bloodline of the Delmos. I'm sorry for this village for failing your test, my old friend. In the northernmost part of the Queendom of Metal lays a hot spring resort that also serves as a cover as a hidden village. In the main building of the resort town, Tiger Tanaka, head of the Land of Metal's most secret spy network, sat in his office. Before him are two young girls, both of whom been called up here. Kasumi and Aine, who practice the Mugen Tenshin style, called here by their superior after yet another fight regarding a boy named Hayabusa. A fight that had ended with that boy declaring that he never wanted to see either of these overly violent bimbos again, and wouldn't date either of them if ordered to by the head of his clan, since he had sworn this in front of the amused clan chief, and on his personal honor. That pretty much closed the door on either of them ending up with Hayabusa. Naturally, the two blamed each other for this development. Violent overed bimbo, muttered Kasumi, holding an ice pack over one eye. Prissy flat-chested heroine, returned Aine, fingering the bandage over her nose. Both of you, shut up, Tiger said. He didn't actually raise his voice, he just managed to make that same sort of impact. Your rivalry has no place here. This is business. Kasumi bit back a retort about how she was not flat-chested. She was 15 years old, in the prime of her life, and had a busty if lithe figure for her age. No, definitely not flat-chested. She was cute when she was younger, now in full bloom, with reddish-brown hair that didn't look horribly out of place, and soft brown eyes that could glisten with tears on a moment's notice. Aine would have liked to mention her own stats in reply. She was also 15 years old, and had been Kasumi's rival for most of the past 10 years. The same height, though slightly lighter, except that her bust was slightly bigger. Something she delighted in pointing out to Kasumi. They'd fought over everything, as they both had been born at the same time with different mothers but with the same father who owns a butcher shop. Their mothers had, like many of the women in the Land of Metal, share a husband together, both of whom are busy working in one of the resort's many inns, which serves as the main income to the hidden village. Seeing the two of them ready to leap out of their seats and start fighting right there, Tiger decided to remind them of a few things. He spoke to both of their mothers and father. He informed them that he had thought that these two girls were modern products of the best eugenics program in the land of metal, trained and disciplined martial artists. Clearly, he was wrong with the two squabbling little girls who had somehow appeared in his presence when he had summoned two talented and promising ninjas. Tiger Tanaka went into great detail, never repeating himself, as he reduced the two girls to 3 years old, 12 inches height, and near tearful states. Even the tough bad girl eyeing Tiger finished then managed to look brooding and mildly unhappy. You two are aware of the eugenics program first dreamt of several centuries ago. The best warriors, the best houses, the best espers, the talented and the healthiest. If it worked for cattle, why not men? Simply get these best of the best together, and sooner or later there are children involved. Nature itself helps this concept. Both girls colored. Kasumi thinking of Hayabusa, eyeing of another boy named Hate, as both of you must have heard by now that the grandson of Hunrak and his wife Queen Carline has been brought back from the hidden village in the Land of Fire. It's been over 500 years since own village first settled in this land. Our people were nothing but nomads when we first entered the Land of Metal after our land was conquered by an invading army. We have served the royal house of Delmo in gratitude for giving us a home to call for our own. We have served as a network for gathering information on the movements of other nations. Now with a male heir to the throne our clan can have a tie to the royal house of Delmo. Tiger waited for the realization to penetrate. They were both quite comely. Kasumi with her mix of classic metal features with just the right amount of mixed blood to give her a slightly exotic look. Ain who looked even more exotic, with her pale hair and flair for what would be unbearably cute costumes were she not so harsh and deadly in personality. Then both realized what he had said and their eyes widened and mouths dropped at the same time. You can't mean? Tiger nodded. Oh, admittedly the boy is only 12. You'd have to wait a few years for marriage. But Kasumi flushed at the thought of what the boss was suggesting. Humph. I doubt some 12-year-old could handle someone like me, Ain said with a superior air, recovering as best she could. I doubt he would even want to handle you, Kasumi couldn't help but add. The two glare at each other making sparks. You know that for generations we have been agents in gathering information and intel on a target, while the Delmo ninjas serve as the attack force for metal. We have been downgraded from a powerful fighting force to nothing more than scouts and information gatherers. You two are the best this village has produced in years, showing how far we have fallen from what we used to be. But this to many of our clan members doesn't matter, as ever since the first hot spring was discovered here, we have been turned into owners and merchants than the powerful warriors we once were. We have now become nothing more than spies and work as an information network for Delmos, since so many people from other nations come here for some R&R in the springs, and which most of the young men find enjoyable as breeders, since we're the one of the only villages left that doesn't have a majority of the women here with the bloodline in their veins. Yeah, we know, Kasumi spoke up, as many of the boys of the village that are older than she is have already slept with girls with the Delmo bloodline. As when the girls from Delmo reach the age of maturity, they go and visit one of the villages who doesn't have much of the bloodline flowing around, find a guy and get busy. It's considered a rite of passage for those girls who going to become full-fledged Delmos. Our moms sometimes let one of their friends sleep with dad to have a child, Ain said flatly, remembering the parties that her mom throws when one or more of her single friends drops by. When she was younger she always wondered why her dad looked so tried while her mom, Kasumi's mom, and her friends look so energetic. Now that she's older and learned about the birds and the bees, it does explain all of the moaning and screaming coming from her parents' room. But now with a male Delmo who is from the royal family, who has the strongest of the bloodline power, we have the means to introduce the bloodline into our clan. Even if you two become nothing more than concubines to him, as long as there's children born between you three, our clan will be able to become the fighting force it used to be. So remember the motto of our clan. Ain closed her eyes, and then frowned. To protect the world from devastation? To unite all peoples within our nation? Kasumi blinked. To fight for things like truth and love, continued Ain. Tiger rubbed the bridge of his nose briefly. No. And I can see your training has not been nearly strict enough. Both of you will go to Iron Mount. I will review your folders and decide which of you will act as support for the other, and who will approach Prince Naruto. Kasumi looked at Ain. Ain looked at Kasumi. They both made retching noises. Tiger pressed a button. The chairs, and their occupants in them, dropped into a room far below. Yes, they definitely need more training. Far south of the land of metal, Zhurong wiped her brow with the back of her hand, flicking droplets of perspiration off her skin. The jungle air was humid and very hot. Her entire body shimmered with sweat. Due to the hardships of living in the wild, her body was physically ravishing, toned without losing a hint of femininity or sensual beauty. Her s were large and supple beneath the makeshift top made of lion skin, which she took from an already dead lion a long time ago. Her face was extremely beautiful, and she had blonde hair that spilled to the middle of her back. Men back in civilization lusted for women like her. She is the wife of Menghua, king of the Nan Man tribes, and claimed to be descended from the fire god from whom she acquired her name. She is a warrior queen who takes care of others. Much like her fire god namesake, Zhurong loves to begin an attack. She dedicates her life to supporting Menghua, in the hope that he will be regarded as a great king. Her personal weapon is a massive three-sided boomerang, which she wields easily. She also mastered all of the fire jutsus that she could get her hands upon. Even the best fire-using jutsus Kangakyo Nin to the north found her to be a challenge in battle. Even with their unlimited churka, they could barely last long enough for Zhurong to run out of churka. She has 4 bodyguards with her. The women warriors of Nanman are known as Amazons. The Amazons with her are towering brunettes, just over 6 feet tall, so they practically dwarfed Zhurong's 5'7" of height. They wore the traditional leathers of their tribes, a short skirt that displayed their long, well-muscled and toned legs, and small studded leather halter that pushed up their ample s. Although the Amazons' bodyguards are tall and physically dominating, they are also very beautiful. They join her for a bit of training as she likes to keep her body in shape to fight. Her skin hot and sticky from a long day of running and swinging through the humid jungle, Zhurong could not help but smile with relief at the sudden sight of a waterfall and its cool torrential waters. She untied the cord that held her lion's skin top together, freeing her long confined s. Next she untied her loincloth and hung both garments on a tree branch. Completely she dove into the cool pond that was fed by the waterfall and swam gracefully to the edge to the mouth of the waterfall. She closed her eyes as she stepped beneath the rushing water, feeling it wash away the day's sweat and grime on her body while cooling her hot skin. She raised her arms and rubbed the length of each one before rubbing her torso all over to ensure she was thoroughly cleaned. She waved for her bodyguards to join her, as she knows they want to clean themselves as well. They smiled as they took off their clothes and joined their queen in the jungle pool. Her bodyguards are very close to her as they have been together for a very long time now, and came to know every part of each other's bodies, up close and personal. They were settling in the pool when they felt someone coming to them. They wonder if it was another teenage boy who was hopping for a peek at the Nanman Queen, as they often would come to this pool to bath after training. It looked as if they were going to have to set yet another example to make it clear that peeking on the queen didn't come without a price. They relaxed when they saw it was a woman coming towards them. She was 6 foot tall, and her body was perfectly proportioned for her height. Long, thick, lustrous black hair flowed down her back. She had dark amber eyes, slightly raised at the outside corners, giving her a cat-like appearance. Her facial features were pronounced yet fine: strong jawline, pretty nose, ears set close to her head. Over her torso she wore a sleeveless low-cut brown leather jerkin drawn together across her chest by a leather lace that wove across her s 3 times, her cleavage visible through the laces. A short white skirt covered the top of her legs, a slit each side rising to her waist. She stood in black leather thigh boots that rose to 3 inches above her knees. A large buckled belt hung at her waist, and a gold band in the shape of a serpent wound itself around her left bicep. A necklace of various charms hung around her neck. Perhaps most striking was her body. Her muscles were taut, toned, hard, beyond anything they had ever seen. Not massive, just incredibly fit and remarkably defined. So feminine and so very wide. She had wide shoulders and a narrow waist. Her s were generous, the lace across her front straining to keep them within her tunic. Even in this light they could see that her skin was gently bronzed and flawless. They estimated her age at 35, maybe 36, at the very peak of her physical condition. Hello sister, I see that you still come to the same pool to bath after your training. It's no wonder that there are so many young men who dare to take a peek at you when it's common knowledge where you bath, Amphra, the second wife of Menghua, said to her fellow wife. Amphra, have you come to join us? Zhu Rong asked as she glances at her bodyguards for them to follow her lead as she walks towards her sister. Her bodyguards all know what she's getting at. As first wife, she likes to remind her fellow wives the ranking order. 1. Sorry, there's no time for fun, Amphra said as she doesn't want her sister's bodyguards to hold her down, as Zhu Rong has her way with her before she lets her bodyguards have their turn on her again. Not that she didn't find it enjoyable. Then why are you here then? Zhu Rong asked as she stops in front of Amphra. Her wet S pressing on her fellow wives' cover ones. I have received news about the heir of metal, Amphra said, and our husband is waiting for us in the castle. So let's go there first, and we can have fun with him afterwards. All right, Zhu Rong said as smiling, and after he's drained we can have fun with my bodyguards. In Nanzog, the capital city of Nanman, the first time a traveler would enter the capital city were always amazed at the incredible architecture. Huge stone columns were everywhere, and the high-roof buildings stood like proud monuments. The streets were all paved and smooth, and there were fountains and or huge statues or gardens at every major intersection. The city itself was absolutely huge, and the number of people who lived here must have been mind-boggling. First-timers could only gawk at the magnificent architecture and beautiful splendor. It might have been hell for them to come here through the hot jungle around the city, but it looked like paradise. In the center of the city is a large pyramid that serves as the royal palace. Zhu Rong and Amphra walked past the guards and servants of palace as they made their way to their husband. The throne chamber is huge and looked more like a temple, with its marble pillars and smooth granite floor. The vaulted ceiling was a full 50 feet high, and dappled beams of daylight shone down from above. The entire palace was cool and airy, despite the high heat and humidity of the jungle nearby. The two queens walked forward, between the two hulking warriors guarding the chamber, and approached the throne. The huge, dark-skinned man's massive bulk reclined into expansive, luxurious cushions, his entire concentration focused upon his two head wives as they entered the room. He wore a single item of clothing, a baggy pair of pants, while his feet were equipped with but a simple pair of sandals. He is Menghua, the king of Nanman, the chieftain and leader of the tribes in the Nanzhong region south of the Queendom of Metal. And he is massive, inches above 7 foot tall. His bulk would be estimated by most people to be in excess of 350 pounds. They would be correct on their estimate of weight, but wrong if they attributed most to fat. While he definitely was smooth and rounded about the trunk and arms by a generally unacceptably thick layer of fat under the skin, most of what lay under that was muscle, quite inhumanly well-developed muscle. This man was as powerful physically as he was in the more occult areas of his life. His arms, bulging with fat overlaying even more bulky muscle, were nearly twice the width of a typical Olympic weightlifter's. His belly, while bulging and smoothed by a not insubstantial layer of fat, nonetheless betrayed the location of sheets of ridged muscle underneath. His weapon of choice is a pair of large gauntlets called King of Beasts, which are shaped like wolf heads. In battle, he's an unstoppable juggernaut as he wears thick armor which is covered with seals that make them stronger and harder. He doesn't even feel any blows from any attacks that are thrown at him. Ah, dears, you're here, Menghua greeted the pair. What do you want, you big lug? Zhu Rong asked in the manner she always uses when dealing with her husband. Amphra is the one who wanted to do this, he answers. As I said before, the Queen of Metal has finally located the heir to her queendom, Amphra said, who used to having to remind them of what she says now and then. She's the one who handles the complex parts of running of a kingdom. What does that have to do with us? Menghua asked, as everyone knows that all of the royal family members are always women and are picky of who they marry. They also marry someone who isn't of the high class that most royals in other nations marry. As the current queen had married a slacker who broke into the castle to give back her family chest she had dropped. When he had first heard that Princess Kiko was of marrying age, he tried to woo her, but that ended badly as she said that she wasn't interested in him and that he was already married to Zhu Rong, and she took an instant's dislike to Kiko. She was the one who dragged him back to their Nanman, as she said that there's no way she was going to have someone like Kiko as a co-wife. The heir is a boy, A male Dumbo, the first one ever to be born, and is the sole heir to the queendom of metal, which would become a kingdom under his rule, Ampha explains to them. I get it, Shurong said as she gets where this is going to. Get what? Their husband asked. She means that we can finally have our foot in the door of gaining a foothold in metal now that there's a male Dumbo, Shurong said. What's the plan, sister? I'm going to send my daughter to be his fiancée, as she's the only one in our family that's around his age. All of the other girls are too young, like your daughter Tulu's sister. He's only 12, so Ty Lee is going to have to stay in metal till they're old enough to marry. After that, our two nations will be joined together by marriage, and if Ty Lee has a boy, then the Dalmo bloodline can be spread around here, making us more powerful. We always have been on friendly terms with each other, so it should be easy for us to get Galeen to be this prince's fiancé. We also have to find someone else to join Ty Lee in the engagement, so we're going to have to spread the word for the nobles to send their young daughters here and choose who's going to join the engagement, Ampha explains to them. I like it, Shurong agrees with her co-wife. Isn't she too young for that still? Menghua said as Ty Lee is only 11. Stay out of this. Both of them bark at him. Yes, dears, he said, cowering in fear. In a large manor in the city of Ironmount, in the dining room of the manor, a family of 5 sat at the long dining table. They are of the Bloomer family, who are known throughout the trade networks. They have been traders for generations, becoming one of the most powerful clans in the land of metal. Glycine Bloomer sat at the table as the family meal is being brought to them. Her parents sat on the other side of the table, and she sat next to her little sister, 3-year-old Glenda. At the head of the table is her grandmother Sito, who is the head of the family now. She's in her late 50s but still looks younger, as the aging process is slower in Delmo women thanks to their bloodline. Unlike the rest of the family, her grandmother Sito has long green hair with traces of silver strands showing the signs of her aging. How can they expect the noble blue mare to lower themselves to serving? Glycine Mother Ryan said as she finds it insulting. Now, daughter, Sito said to her daughter. This is the first chance for the Bloomer family and the Delmo family to finally join together. For generations we have been supports of the royal family, and we have grown very close to the royal family. And Carline is one of my closest friends, and that includes getting to know each other's bodies by every inch. Grandmother! Glycine shouted, as she doesn't like it when her grandmother goes into one of her stories about her UAL adventures when she was younger. I'll eat later, her father said as he sat up, losing his appetite, leaving the room. Ryan, I know that Fred is a good trader, but you really should get him loosen up. Invite some of your unmarried friends over and have an orgy. So Glenn and Glycine will have some half-sisters, Sito said to her daughter. Mother, how could you think of me doing something like that? Ryan said, blushing red. Your father never minded. Sito smiles, as it's quite common for a married woman to share her husband with her unmarried friends. Mom, enough, Ryan growls, as she already heard this story before, as she has already met her half-sisters from the women her father had slept with, which her mother allowed to happen. I'm all for having Glycine be Carline's grandson's maid. And when they get older, there be so many things they can do with each other, like Glycine acting like a maid caught stealing and her master punish her before he takes her roughly. Sito giggles as she remembers the games she used to play with her husband when both he and she were younger. Mother! Grandmother! Both younger Bloomer women shouted, their faces a bright red. And I have some old outfits that I'm sure can fit you. Sito smiles as she watches her daughter and granddaughter faces grow even redder. The only one that isn't paying attention is Glenda, who is too busy playing with her food to notice what's happening around her. Inside the castle, how is he doing? Hunrock Delmo asked as he walks down the castle's hallway with a blue-hair woman dressed in a white lab coat. Her lab coat is wide open, showing the white blouse and loose pants she's wearing. The buttons of her blouse strain to hold in her ample S in check. If she starts bouncing around, she would likely start popping buttons. He's suffering from malnourishment thanks to his poor diet of eating nothing but ramen all the time. He's shorter than he should be at his age. I have already started him on a high-potent diet. In a few months his body should start growing to what it should look like for his age, Dr. Mizuno said as she looks over the report on the notepad she's holding. I expected as much, Hunrock said, as when he first saw Naruto he could tell he was shorter than he should be. After he and Carline had introduced themselves to him, they had Mizuno and her medic team to give him a full examination to see how healthy he is. We did some operations in fixing his body that were damaged from what, I'm guessing, beatings at a young age, Mizuno said as she and her team had to snap badly mended bones back together to be allowed to heal the right way. I see, Hunrock said in a dark tone. He's glad that the Golden Turks had done so much damage to the Hidden Leaf Village when they were there. And with the news of not once but 2 times that the Leaf Ninjas have been beaten on their home ground would make potential customers look to other hidden villages for jobs to be done. He also talked to the heads of the trading guilds in metal to cut the trading with the Land of Fire in half. When they got to Naruto's room, Dr. Mizuno found the prince, and the room had gotten a bit crowded. Why there were so many nurses present, she wasn't sure. Sure, he is the first male to be born in their clan, but there were other guys about. And why was his blanket thrown back? Dr. Mizuno? I mean we were just checking his. Komori Mizuno eyed the panicked nurse, the candy stripe assistants, and all the others showing signs of distress, embarrassment, and lust. She looked puzzled and then at the still unconscious boy. Eyes twitching under his lids, slight jerking motions at the extremities, all signs of REM sleep, even his. The royal nurse cleared her throat. Well, you've checked his catheter placement. Now give the poor boy some privacy. Watching with some amusement as the various nurses scurried out, Dr. Mizuno covered the boy with the blanket, her eyebrows still raised. Well, I always wonder what the Delma bloodline would do for a guy. It makes us women stack, and it makes guys well endowed. Now that's my man of a grandson, Hunrock said as he sees why the nurses were all in Naruto's room. Yes, he is, Dr. Mizuno said as she couldn't help but stare at the sleeping boy's manly body part and drool. I hope that he won't hurt the girl who makes him a man too much. Unless one of you older women gets to him first, Hunrock said as he sees how the doctor is drooling. I'll watch over him while you get Reno and Rudo to guard the door. What, you don't think we can't protect him? One of the red Delmos outside the door yells. I know you two can, but of course what's stopping you two from coming inside and getting personal with my grandson? He asked them, making both the guards to turn red as their uniforms. I'll go get those two, Dr. Mizuno said as she snaps out of her wet daydream and heads out to find the 2 Turks members and take a cold shower afterwards. In another part of the castle, footsteps echoed across the polished marble floor as Tiger General Sun Yu entered the royal entry chamber of the queen. Sun Yu. She passed a pair of elite red Delmo guardswomen and saluted them with a fist on her chest. The guards returned her salute, and she passed by them into the massive hallway beyond. She gazed at the statuary and expensive tapestries which lined the hallway, but she dared not slow her pace to stare at these marvels. At the end of the hallway was a huge oaken double door, banded in iron, and decorated with carvings. At either side of the door stood 2 red Delmos in full armor who must have been both 7 feet tall, and both carried barbed spears. Sun Yu was not a large woman, only some 5.5 feet tall, but she radiated a power and confidence that any great warrior would envy. A skillful commander as well as a powerful jutsu user, Sun Yu is the queen's right hand. I see you're late, Diao-chan said to her rival, smirking as she did so as she walks towards the door. The expression seemed to irritate Sun Yu. She fixed her cold black eyes on Diao-chan, making the general, who's also a dancer when she's not on duty, giggle in response. Sun Yu's face was pale and beautiful. Her eyes, the small proud nose and faintly pouting lips were all Diao-chan could see of her body. The rest was encased in golden armor. A high-peaked helm and a long coat of iron plates hid any trace of womanly curves. Diao-chan guessed that Sun Yu would have a compact, muscular body, very different from her own lush curves. Diao-chan was a few inches taller than the general, her long brown hair pinned up in an elaborate series of loops bound with yellow ribbons. Her skin was flawless, pale pink, silky soft to the touch. Diao-chan's eyes, now shadowed with apprehension, were a warm, compassionate brown, her lips pink and full. Her large S heaved faintly beneath the tight crimson bodice that encased them while remaining open at the top to reveal the deep cleft between the full and perfect orbs. Diao-chan's long and graceful legs, the faint lines of a dancer's muscle barely visible beneath her creamy skin, were drawn up under her delightfully rounded bottom. The queen is waiting inside, one of the red Delmo guards said as she easily opens the massive door into the chamber. The 2 rivals nodded as they walked through the doors to talk to their queen. The walls of the throne room were all covered with gold and silver dragons that seemed to shift and move, with the symbol of metal in the middle on both sides. The pickaxe and symbol of the metalworks that the land of metal is known for and why the nation is so powerful as it the biggest producer of metal ores on the continent. Air exchangers had been installed to make the air fresher and of a more comfortable temperature to the people who came. Also, the walls were luminescent, causing the room to be lighted without the need for light bulbs or the torches that were still in use in this era. And of course, all this led to the throne, made in such a way as to make the person sitting on the throne seems to be larger than life. Sun Yu the Iron Wall General and Diao Chan the Silver Wind General, it's nice to see you two again. Queen Caroline greeted the two by their rank and titles. You're looking better, my queen, now that your grandson is safe in your hands, Diao Chan said as her queen has been pacing around the castle when she had first learned what had become of her daughter and her grandson. What may we do for you, my queen? Sun Yu asked. As you are very well aware of that, the other nations are going to be sending envoys here very soon. The news of there being a male Delmo will soon reach the far corners of the world, and the nations and hidden villages will be clamoring to have Naruto to impregnate one of their women they're going to send in the envoys. This is the first time that the Delmo bloodline can be passed down to a clan outside of metal as a male. Naruto will be able to impregnate as many women as his body will be able to handle. He's going to need to be protected by attempts of kidnapping and rape, as some of the clans will be desperate to have our bloodline in theirs, Caroline explains. How many do you want to guard him? Sun Yu asked. As many as it takes to keep him safe, Caroline said. There will be assassinations attempts on his life, as there are many who will pay a king's ransom to see that there's no heir to the throne. In the chaos that follows in the fight for the throne, enemy nations will try to invade or take over the trade routes that are in our control. I have already doubled the red Delmos in the castle and have gold Delmos watching for any strange actives in the city. Even the white Delmos have been stepping up to meet my demands in them. My husband's Turk's unit have already assigned the 7 personal servants to our grandson close to his age, so he'll be able to make some friends. The white Delmos do serve as the royal bodyguards, but they also serve as the commanders for the other Delmos. I want a unit whose sole purpose is to protect Naruto at all costs, which will be called the Killer Bees. As bees will die to protect their queen, I want these killer bees to die to protect Naruto. I will search throughout my ranks to find women who are suitable to protect Prince Naruto, Diao Chan said as she bows to her queen. As so will I, Sun Yu said as well, not wanting to be upstaged by her rival. There's no need for that, I have already chosen 13 young women to place into the Killer Bee unit, Queen Caroline said. She raised her right hand and gave a slight wave, and 2 white Delmos suddenly appeared in front of the 2 generals, handing them each a folder before disappearing again. Each of these girls are 3 years older than Naruto, so there won't be a big age gap between them. I expect them to never let Naruto out of their sights, and no more than 2 will ever be left alone with him. You 2 are the best generals of metal, and I want you 2 to train them to their limits and making sure they'll be the best bodyguards of metal when you're done with them. Yes, ma! Both of them barked at the same time. The 2 generals read through the folders containing the information on all of the girls chosen, as well as a full-length picture of what they look like in the folders. The first girl is Kami, a petite girl with blue eyes and unusually long blonde pigtails with a scar on her left cheek. Junie, a blonde with short hair, stands. She specializes in unarmed combat. Julie has short light brown hair. She specializes in unarmed combat as well and is the bustiest of all of the girls in the folder. Anero has pink hair with short ponytails. She specializes in communications, carrying a microphone with her. She can use a sound jutsu with her voice to make a sonic scream. Fevrier has short purple hair. She specializes in using crossbows and other long-range weapons. Mars short purple hair. She specializes in information gathering and recon. She can make herself invisible at will. April, a redhead with short hair. She specializes as a medic, and using her medical knowledge knows every pressure point on the human body. Satsuki with short brown hair. She specializes in sword fighting. She can focus her chakra into her sword and make energy blades that can cut through anything that shoots out of her sword at will. Santama with wild brown hair and tan skin. She specializes in spear fighting and is accompanied by a pet monkey. She is a natural climber who can scale almost any kind of surface, has fast footwork. Xiaoyu with short brown hair. She specializes in using nunchaku. She can disconnect any part of her body at will like a rag doll, letting her launch attacks in any kind of position. Jianyu has short black hair. She specializes in using a quarterstaff. Her eyes can see the weak spots in anything that stands before her. No embellish, she had tan skin and brown locks of hair. She specializes in fighting with twin hatchets. She is the strongest of all of them, and can make her body as hard and strong as steel. Decapre, her appearance resembles Cammy with a black gas mask. She can shut down her body's nervous system, letting her push herself longer and harder than any normal person can ever do. Impressive collection of girls here, Sun Yu said, looking over the list. We'll start their training right away, Diao Chan said. You may take your leave now, Carline said. The two generals bowed before they left the throne room. Once the doors of the room closed, the aged queen called out, You can come out now, Setsuna. Yes, my queen, Setsuna said as she kneels before her. The news media are going to broadcast the news about Naruto tonight, and after that you'll know what will happen. We're already being flooded with letters for engagements from all of the clans of metal already. And once the news breaks out on TV, there's going to be a tidal wave of letters. The mailroom staff members are already on the verge of going on strike with all of the letters they have to handle. Something must be done, or Naruto won't be able to step out of the castle without girls chasing after him. And it won't be like what happens when a single cute guy wanders into the village and young women who are so man-hungry that they'll chase him down and take him right in the middle of the street. Yes. I know. The last time that happened was only 4 weeks ago, Carline replied, remembering what happened to the handsome young man who stopped here to buy supplies as he was traveling to the eastern lands. I already had letters sent out to all neighboring nations and hidden villages to send no more than 2 girls with a small escort for any engagements with Naruto. What about the leaf? Setsuna asked. They'll be given a chance as all of the rest, Carline said bitterly. But of course finding girls that were actually nice to him while he was in the village is going to be a very troubling task for them. And with Naruto, if he's anything like his mother, won't let anything go without being settled first. I won't let anything happen to him under my watch. I won't fail you ever again, Setsuna said. And when Naruto orders us to repay the leaf for all the kindness they had shown him, I'll be at his side and protect him from anything with my life. I know you won't, Carline said with an underlining tone in her voice. Because you know that you will never be allowed to come back here ever again. As I vowed, Setsuna said, lowering her head. She won't fail this time. In the Leaf Village at nighttime, Sarutobi, did you see what's on the news? Tsunade yells as she bursts into his office. She's covered with bandages as she's still recovering from her wounds she got from the fight with the 2 female Turks members. Out of the Leaf ninjas that tried to stop the Turks members, she is in the best physical condition. She was laying in her bed flipping through the channels when she saw the news flash. Yes, I already heard, he said as he tosses her a letter he had gotten earlier tonight. She looks over the letter, her eyes widen as she finishes reading it. This means that once Naruto becomes the king of metal, he's going to want to take his revenge on us. Yes, and the only hope we have is for one of the 2 girls we're going to be allowed to send to be engaged to him. To become his wife and somehow stem the hatred he holds for us, Sarutobi said as he slumps into his chair, thinking of what the council is going to react finding out as the news channels are already airing the news about the Prince of Metal. 2. What are we going to do? Tsunade asked as she already knows how powerful the Delmos are, as the Turks, the elite of the metal forces, had wiped the floor with the Leaf's finest. They have the Forbidden Scroll with the village's most powerful jutsus written in it that's going to become well known to all of the Kengaku so that they'll know every one of our jutsus. There's more than that. When they stole the files on Erasure and his family, but also they took the files that Erasure wrote on the fighting styles of the clans of the village, stating their strengths and weaknesses. They'll know everything about us and how to beat us. With how Naruto's state of mind now, he will come back to this village with an army of elite Delmos right behind him. They have for years acted as a buffer zone between us and the lands to the west, and have become much stronger than any hidden village that's here in the east. What's the plan then? Tsunade asked, not wanting everything her grandfather worked for to build to be destroyed. Have everyone look into which girls that Naruto knows is on friendly terms with him. We're going to send 2 girls of this village to Ironmount. There's no way we'll be able to take on a nation like Metal. They're stronger and have more numbers and allies than we do. But there is still the problem of finding girls who acted friendly with him and whose parents haven't chased him away. Erasure must be ashamed of what this village has done to his son, Tsunade said, as she knows there's very little chance of finding 1 but 2 girls who actually are Naruto's friends. I know, Sarutobi sighed as he knows what's going to happen tomorrow morning as the news breaks out all over the village. The boy that's hated is a prince heir to the throne of metal, one of the most powerful nations in the world, who hates them in return. Cue the opening music of Please Twins. In 2 bedrooms of the village, 2 young girls sat and watched as a news flash suddenly flashed across scene, interrupting the show they were watching. One of the girls works in a ramen stand. The other lives in a large manor of the strongest clan of the village. 2 girls who shouldn't have anything that connects them, but something someone does connect them to each other. The 2 sets of eyes, one dark the other white, widen as they see who it is shown on the screen. Both spoke and both said the same thing. Narratoire Prince? Thanks for watching this video. You really enjoy this video. Like, subscribe, and comment down below, and turn on that bell notification. Don't forget to support and follow MadHat886 for writing that awesome fanfic, and also make sure to comment on this story, link in the description. See you in the next video. Goodbye.